Welcome to the Sound Meets Sound podcast. My guest this episode is Stephanie Arapian, actor, writer, producer, and founder of The Centered Creator, offering guided meditations and emotional reset rituals. Enjoy. Well, thank you, Stephanie, for joining me on the podcast. And like I was saying, I'd love to hear how you got into, like, was it acting first or writing? Like, where did your creative journey start? And were you a kid or were you older?
Ooh. Well, the easy answer to that question, it definitely started with acting and it definitely started when I was a kid, but really it started with my obsession with the question, what if?
Nice.
um, and when I was a kid, I would always kind of be, my ideal playtime was like if I could just act out certain stories that I'd read or seen on TV and just figure out what if this had happened differently, or what if the character made this choice, or what if they just stepped into a whole different show? What would that do to them? Or what if they made a different choice here? And what if the world bent itself sideways, backwards, upside down? Um, and then just playing with like, okay, so maybe this would happen, and maybe this would happen instead. And I think I've kind of kept that that hint of like childlike curiosity and possibilities of like, well, anything could be possible because I'm still fascinated by science fiction and fantasy. So it's kind of maintained that thread of what ifs, but I kind of grounded it in that I realized what was always fascinating to me about that question is what it meant for the person, what it meant for the human to go through, and what they would have to, their emotional journey of what they would have to change or fix or understand or learn about themselves. And that's a very nuanced understanding. I did not get that as a kid. I just thought it was really cool. But as I've grown older, I've realized that it's been much more about like, oh, wow, this is understanding how people are. Like, why do people kind of thing. Um, and so that primarily that's why I always call myself an actor first, because I've always been fascinated with people and their emotional journeys, and accessing that has been my way of empathizing and understanding and sharing those stories and hoping to get those stories out into the world and help other people understand different perspectives and bridge perspectives. Um, so yeah, I think I started with that. I mean, really, when you can stand up in front of your entire school in second grade and narrate the entire Christmas pageant, you don't really have performance anxiety in front of large crowds.
That's great.
You can. I mean, you can still do that. There's still a moment of nerves, but I was like, I remember doing that and being like, this is awesome. And of course, you get stage fright later in life, but when you feel
Right.
people judging you. But yeah, that came around. And then I could talk about so many things because it's been a really long, crazy journey that started where I was born in Maryland, and I'm in Los Angeles now. And I often get asked, "So what you brought you to? How did you get from Maryland to Los Angeles?" And my easy answer to that question is, "Well, I took the long way." I took the long way, and by that I mean I flew around the world from Maryland to Los Angeles to China, and lived in China for a year and a half.
Oh,
Then moved to
wow.
Germany and lived in Germany for 3 years, and
Wow.
then I moved to England and studied for my acting degree for 2 years and worked there for another 2 years, so 4 in England, and then I moved from London to Los Angeles. So I
Wow.
literally circumnavigated the globe to get here in California.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
China being the closest one to Los Angeles, but
Yeah,
that was your first.
strangely, and of course, obviously, the most foreign challenge to myself as a person, really, and that's kind of really grounded my understanding of people and culture and behavior and emotions and things that are the similar across cultures and things that are very different across cultures, but also just understanding how much more similar we are as people than we are different, and that just gave me a lot more fuel for this what if questions of exploring people. So, I'm not
Right.
sure if I
Right.
answered your question, but that's like I
You
guess
did.
part of the origin creation story is I'm definitely an actor first by trying to understand people, and I've had a long journey to get to there.
Right. So right. So I love that. I didn't realize I knew you had lived abroad, which feels like a very old-fashioned way to say it, but I didn't realize you'd spent
It's
so
true.
much time, abroad.
Yeah, yeah. It was about 8 years almost in total. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So you narrate the Christmas pageant in second grade. Did you do a lot of plays or training as a child? And like when you left high school, were you like, I'm gonna study acting, or did you go straight to China from there?
Did I go straight? No, I did not go straight to China. Um, I actually, so from the second grade, there wasn't a whole lot in my elementary school experience for acting. I think they tried to start a drama club. It did not work out very well. So I
Yeah.
had this understanding of performance, and the closest I came to that was actually, you'll like this, music.
Ah,
So
nice.
I, as many people do when they're in elementary school, picked up an instrument, and that was kind of my understanding of performance for a long time, was being in band for many years. I
Mhm.
played flute. I still have
Oh,
it.
nice. You're such a
um,
flutist. I can see.
can you not tell? You know this by now. I'm such a flutist.
Yeah.
Um, Ah, and then I got to high school where they did have, theater, SJC
Mm.
Theater, actually, and we did 2 shows a year. There was usually a drama in the fall, winter, and then there was usually a musical or comedy, in the spring, so there were 2 a year, and there's actually something in the high school called, like, 8 across the stage, which means that you performed in every play in your 4 years of high school. And I
Oh,
am the proud owner of one of those titles. I am also one of the, drama mamas, as they called them back then. Um, so kind of 8 across the stage, but eventually I was the president of the drama club. But yeah, I my
that's
first actual performance, in high school was a fascinating story. I had never auditioned really for anything before in my life. And it was high school. It was very low key stakes. And they're like, just bring something to read. And that's all you did. And I'm like, I will pick this book off the shelf. And it ended up being like Black Beauty or something. So and they're like, okay, read it out loud. And I picked a paragraph and read it. And they gave me some directions and notes to go back and forth with. And I read it and back and forth. And like, okay, callbacks. And there was a callback where I was doing a scene with somebody else and, it went pretty well, and then I wasn't cast, and I was very sad,
oh.
but I'm like, "Okay, maybe this isn't for me." Cue 1 week later, the director's like, "So we're having to recast someone. Would you like to audition again?" And I was like, "Sure." I auditioned again, and they're like, "Are you available these times, these dates, da, 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 for rehearsals after school?" And I said, "Sure." And they're like, "Okay, fantastic." And I'm like, "So what am I playing? What am I doing?" He's like, "Oh, you're gonna be Anne Frank in The Diary of Anne Frank."
Oh, wow.
I was like, Okay, sure, okay, I'm in. All right, let's do this." Yeah, that was my
Wow.
first experience of that,
Yeah.
and that kind of started on the whole journey, from there. I did
That's a
not
heavy
yeah,
role.
it wasn't it? Like, for high school and not only that, but I was, like, ninth grade, first role, and because of the subject matter, this was a high school show that also was bussing in elementary schools as part of their educational theater. So,
Mm.
you had like, my brother and my sister actually came to my school to watch my play as part of their, like, history, social sciences, all lessons and stuff. So that was
Oh
like,
my
"This is a trip."
gosh. Yeah.
Um, it was a very big trip. But yeah, that started my high school, like, theater career. I did go to college and studied theater performance as well as English literature. I was one of those. I
Yeah.
was one of those double English lit and theater performance majors until I basically switched it to an English minor and theater major.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and then, as so many people do, felt very unprepared for the reality of the world once you leave college. Um, like, they don't I went to college in, New England, so obviously the next step would have been going to New York and being that starving artist and figuring out, like, what that meant to grow and do. I wasn't really f I didn't I was honest with myself about not feeling prepared to do that. So I took an internship down in Florida at a theater where I was in stage management because I could
Wow.
not get into the acting intern program. So I'm like, "Anything is good."
Yeah. Good.
And I learned a lot about, AEA theater, Lord D theater, how small repertory companies work, grateful for the experience. It did make me jealous of all the people on stage. So,
I bet.
I was like, "This is great, but," and then I moved back home after the internship, uh, living with my parents and trying to audition and figuring out what the home Maryland, Virginia, DC theater scene was like, and
Mhm.
just feeling really stuck until like, I was stuck for a good year or so until a friend of mine. I have so many stories to digress from, I'm trying to keep this on track.
It's
A friend
fine.
of mine I had met through Girl Scout camp, long story, sent me a letter from Japan, and she was explaining that she was part of a English teaching exchange program where she went to Japan to teach. She was British, by the way, Scottish, sorry.
Ah.
Uh, and was working for a government program where she was an assistant teacher in a Japanese school and living with a host family. And she was sending me this lovely long letter about how cool it was and interesting, and like she got to see the world. And I was like, this is so awesome. It sounds so cool. I wish I could do this. I could do this.
Yeah.
Why don't I do this? Holy crap. So I fell down a research rabbit hole after that.
No,
And
you?
yeah, no, me, I'm like, no, that never happens. Dear God, is that my like story in life? Data gathering. Um,
Yes.
and eventually, some months later, I was on a plane to learn how to teach English, get my TEFL certificate in Greece. And there started my journey that eventually took me to China and around the world. Because I'm
Wow.
like, if I can't figure out how to be a starving artist in theater, I can at least pursue this other dream of travel. And yeah, it was the best thing that possibly could have happened to me, honestly. Yeah,
Wow. Wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, I had a few friends do the TOEFL route,
Mhm.
and especially in Asia. I had a friend who
Yeah.
went to Korea, and then she went to China and Japan, and
Mhm.
just sort of spent several years and definitely making more money than she would have made in New York. I remember
And that
she'd
says a
come.
lot because some of those salaries are not very high. Like,
I
locally, they're
know.
amazing. By
Right.
Western standards, they're very low.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but she'd come
yeah.
back to New York and I'd be like, have all this money and we'd go out to eat and stuff. And I'm like, maybe I should do that instead of like making $100 a gig. Yep.
I mean, if you have the fortitude, it is not for everybody, but I always
Yeah.
and will forever recommend everybody get out of their home country for some chunk period of time where you are really immersed in a different culture. I can't explain how much you grow just by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that actually took me from China into Germany. Like they I signed a 1 year contract, and I wanted to know what the get out clause was just in case I couldn't handle it. And it was basically you had to stay at least 6 months of your contract. I was like, "Okay, I can survive anything for 6 months. Great." And I ended
Right.
up staying 6 months past that contract. Um, and then I moved to Germany, and it was in Germany doing the same thing of teaching English, just for a completely different subset of people. I was
Right.
working freelance for businesses to teach English, that I
Ah,
got involved with English speaking expat theater. So there's like community theater in English for English-speaking German audiences or expat audiences as well. So that's kinda how I
wow.
became full circle. By the time I went off, I was teaching and doing that, and then I got into I was think there was 3 different companies that I was performing with at one point, doing theater in my hobby hours outside of my freelance teaching job, and eventually, I started burning out on the teaching, loved it, loved the experience, still kinda love Germany, actually.
Mhm.
And really enjoy my experiences there. Love going back. Wouldn't mind living there again, honestly. Um, but once I was getting a little burned out in the teaching and the acting became more important, I was like, this is really something that I love, and I'm coming back to it. And there's a reason why I'm coming back to it. But this is it's wonderful, but it's a small pond, and I'm dreaming bigger than this. How can I do more? And I was thinking about, okay, well, if we're gonna commit, let's commit and maybe go to drama school. but I didn't want to go back to the US yet.
Right.
So that led to me looking around at London Conference of Drama Schools in the UK and eventually narrowing it down to East 15 Acting School and, yeah, doing a 2-year MFA in England, in London.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Did they make you do a lot of Shakespeare?
There was definitely a Shakespeare module, and that was fascinating and fun, but really cool was actually my 2nd year of the MFA program. We were performing in a repertory company, for our 2nd year, interspersed with 2 big educational modules. One was in Russia. We went to Moscow and studied for a month at the Russian Theatrical Institute of Arts, GITIS,
Wow,
and the other was a month training at Shakespeare's Globe.
that's so cool.
It was phenomenal. I cannot tell you what it is like to be on that stage and performing Shakespeare. It
Yeah,
just changed your whole perspective. I was like, "Oh my god, this is fun. This isn't just like a crazy thing that all these academics wanted to shove into my brain because it was quote unquote classic literature." It's like, "No,
right.
this is baldy. This is like ribald humor. This is like crazy. This is like trauma and this is like massive drama and it's speaking on the stage." And I think there was one thing that again you'll appreciate for sound that one of the instructors shared that has never left me. And it's that the acoustics of that space, because of the many sides that it has, the acoustics are amazing, and you don't really notice it until you are on stage speaking in your normal speaking tone, but it sounds like you have a speaker to everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that was amazing, and also that because it was made of wood, wood absorbs sound.
Mhm.
So all the words that have ever been spoken on that stage are
Right.
living in the wood. And I was like, "Oh my god, I get to contribute to that."
Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
That was just a mind-blowing concept for me. So yeah, I love that. Like my voice is living on in the wood at the Globe Theater.
That's like a sci-fi fantasy movie right there. Is like
Isn't it? It's just
someone
like, "Oh, let us pull
develops.
that back out." We're not
Yeah,
gonna go into like the whole Doctor Who David Tennant
I
episode
know,
of
it's
that,
very
but
Doctor Oh, that's yeah, I got to with some choirs, I got to sing in these huge marble cathedrals in Italy,
Mhm.
and it felt like my voice was being pulled out of my body because of the way the acoustics were. It was
Wow.
so amazing, like, and
Wow.
then you realize how few buildings in the US have
Are actually
any.
meant for that kind of sound, like, the
Yeah,
sound as performance,
yeah,
as
yeah,
art. Yeah, I totally
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
And then I think back
that's
to, like, my high school cafeteria. I was like, "Oh
yeah.
my god, this is, like, the worst acoustics ever in the history thereof."
Oh,
Ugh.
I know,
If you
yeah.
just picture the most classic, like, tile-ridden, like, bouncy sound, there's nothing for it. It's such a live there was horrible.
Boxy.
I mean, we
Yeah.
loved it, but it was horrible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what we
Oh,
all grew
man.
up with and thinking it's fine.
Right, right, exactly. We're like, how could it be better?"
And then you experience
Um,
that choral thing and you're like, "Oh my
yeah, it's like,
god, where has
"Oh,
this been my whole life?"
this is like an architect thinking about how the sound will travel in the
Mhm.
building."
Yeah.
I'm just because 'cause I'm from Florida. Where in Florida did you do your internship?
Sarasota. I was at
I thought
Florida
so.
Studio Theater. Yeah, you knew that.
Yeah, I was like, that's, like, where it all happens, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
It was fun.
Yeah,
We
we
were in, like, an intern housing, and it was very educational. I was like, "Oh, yeah, so this is, like, all the things I like about the community clicky not clique, but the community culture of theater, crazy people all getting together because 'cause they're passionate about a thing and living
Yes.
together, but on a different level because it was professional."
Right, right, yeah, and I grew up in Bradenton, which is the town right next to Sarasota,
Ah,
and
right, right.
I knew about the scene, but I had no idea they were like Lord D. I had no
Mhm.
idea they were such a big deal growing up because I never went to the scene.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's like
learned a
we went to
lot
the
from the ins and
beach.
outs.
So,
I mean, that's
but
what you do. That was the first
yeah,
time that I had ever gone basically skinny dipping at Thanksgiving, and I was like, "Damn, it's cold, but
nice.
also cool."
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So You were in England, and then did you go straight from England to LA? And follow-up question, why did you end up choosing LA over New York, back on the
Yeah,
coast that you were more
tricky
familiar with?
question. Um,
And you don't
I
have to
guess
answer it.
no, 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 it's I have all the answers. It's more like I have so many thoughts. I'm trying to make sure I'm following a through line here.
Yeah.
Uh when I was in England, I did the 2 years of study, and for my particular visa, which was wonderful and no longer exists, I could stay to work as long as I had studied. So because I studied for 2
Ah,
years, I could stay for 2 years,
right.
which was brilliant and amazing, and I learned a lot. It's a very expensive city.
Yes.
Uh
Yeah.
but I was doing a lot of profit share theater. I was doing what AEA calls 99-seat theater here in LA.
Mm.
Similar things or just profit share, like, we all get together and put it on, and we all get a take of what the door sales were. After a while, that got very complicated, and very tiring, and it felt like I was giving a lot without a lot of, like, return of career building momentum.
Right.
And I wasn't giving it a ton of time. Like, my perspective back then is different than it is now. 2 years is not a lot of time to give it, but, uh, it did also feel at the time that it was very difficult for an American to really make inroads into the acting scene there. I feel like that's shifted a little bit now, especially with the preponderance of, like, global co-productions and things, but, uh it was a little frustrating, and I had also realized that I wanted to try more film and television, and that would be more why I focused on LA rather than New
Mhm.
York. Um, Also New York, I had, like, a weekend taster of it that kinda put me off.
Ah.
And it wasn't not because I don't love New York, because I do. And it was actually only on a recent trip to visit my sister who lives there, that I was able to really put it into words, and I thank my younger self for not choosing New York, because as brilliant and amazing as New York is, I need a shut-off switch,
Ah,
and I don't think New York has one of those.
the
Like, you
city
can't
that never
unplug.
sleeps. No, you can't.
Yes, and I realize that's true. There's this wonderful, like, if you imagine there's, like, a electric humming wire that's running through the entire city and surrounds, and it's amazing if you wanna, like, go out at 4 a.m., or if you have, like, breakfast at 2 in the afternoon, or you are just getting some things together and you're putting on a show, and you're over here, and then you're on the train, and then you're over there, and it's just everything is happening. Um and I can do that for a certain period of time, and then I need my off switch.
Mhm,
And I didn't
mhm.
feel like there was an off switch. In California, there's definitely an off switch.
Definitely.
So
Go
I've always
hiking.
kind of described it as like East Coast drive meets West Coast chill.
Right, right.
And that really, really suited me. But yeah, the drive to move from London to Los Angeles was really based around my fascination. Well, what if, here we go again, what if where I need to be is more about film and television, and that's what I consume more. That's what I like the storytelling there, which felt weird because I was surrounded by a lot of people who were like, "Theater will never die. It is the end all be all of true artistry."
Right, right. Especially
And
in England.
especially in England. At least I was surrounded by that attitudes a lot, and I know
Yeah.
things change, and this was some time ago, but It it also once I was living here, someone explained to me the difference between film and television, and I was also mentally adding theater into it, and that film is watching one life-changing moment for someone's life, and in a series, we're watching a multitude of choices that a person is making over time. And I realized that television, that particular question of watching that person make all these series of changes over time, was exactly what I had been doing with my brain in my imagination since I was a kid with that what if. I was like, what if this happened? What would they do? And then what would happen? And then what would happen? And then what had happened? I was following one story over their lifetime and then playing
Mhm.
with different characters and different stories. And it just felt, it didn't at the time, but I can look back in retrospect and see how that pattern, like, oh, well, of course it's going to be LA. Of course it's going to be television. Of course you're going to become a writer.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, that you can make that connection. Um, Speaking of writing and film, so I know you recently had your short film Rewind to Her, and it's gotten a lot of festival love. What was that the first thing that you've written that you also produced, or had you written other things that were produced, or how did that journey start?
So it wasn't actually the first thing that I've done, but it is probably my best accomplishment to date in that arena. Because
Mhm,
every time you do something, you grow and you learn and you get better. Um, I had I'm trying to not follow 5 different story threads here, and we'll pick one. Um, if we wanna talk about my experience as, like, an actor and producer, where I'm producing something that I'm acting in,
mhm,
this was my 3rd project, that I've done. I've produced and helped other people on other projects and learned from them as well, but this is my 3rd. The first one, and this might be a story that I hadn't even realized I was going with, but it came out of in the same way that all my projects out of kind of come out of apparently, is I just need to get this out. And it was a short film called Voyeur. Voyeur is personal to me for many reasons. I wrote it to describe it as a series of vignettes, and it's very simple. Voyeur, it literally takes from one outside point of view on a shot on a door of an apartment, my apartment, and you can see a window. And it's just several vignettes that take place either coming or going or just outside or just in the window and heard. Um, and it was kind of in memoriam to my father. Uh,
mm,
it was a series of vignettes about a woman who is dealing with her father's terminal diagnosis and living on a different coast. And how do you kind of deal with that? Or what's the journey there of moments in your life as you're trying to deal with the situation and wanting to be there, but being an artist who's trying to pursue their passion in a completely different area? And obviously, that was very true to life for me. And it was very writing it was simply a way for me to process certain things in a slightly fictionalized way, and I send it to a close friend who's like, "Yeah, this is certainly something you can shoot. This is producible." And I was like, "Okay, in that case, let's just get a small crew together." That was my first experience of actually shooting something, and there's a lot of other hard stories and lessons that are around that that I won't get into now, but I am incredibly proud of the work there. As I said, you always learn and grow by each production that you do, you get better and you learn more. And I can certainly look back and say, like, okay, if I was to do this again, I'd change this or I'd shift that or maybe trim this or edit that or maybe the production value or blah, blah, blah. But this is one of those ones that I'm never not going to be proud of because it still stands up for me,
yeah,
and because of what it means to me. And it did pretty well for a very first short film that didn't really fit into a category. I didn't really have a strategy around festivals or anything like that when I did it. I was just kind of like, let's see what happens. And it placed in a couple things and it was accepted into a couple things. And it gave me my first live in person film festival as a producer and filmmaker.
cool.
It led me to feel confident in doing my second, which was a little bit more of a crazy writing exercise that I'm like, sure, I've got time. Let's try and create another new thing now that I've learned more. Um, and that's a whole nother story that I'll talk about. But basically, I learned all great things from this. And it was there was a lot of, let's say, growing pains as well. A lot of
Yeah,
growing pains with that second one. So that when I finally got to
yeah,
this third one, I had a clear reason why I was doing it, and extremely happy with how it's turned out as a result. And yeah, we had my first international festival selection come up last month, and we were back in Berlin. I was like, woohoo, Germany
yeah,
for it.
yeah,
So really exciting stuff, and just like feels like coming back full circle in a way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so cool. And I read an early draft of Rewind to her, and I can't wait to see it. Are you going to? Because it is such a compelling idea, but then the way that you flesh out the idea of like rewriting the past and fixing, that, like you said, that human need to like go back and fix that thing
Yeah.
that you really messed up, and you're like, if I could
Yeah.
just fix that one thing.
Yeah.
Um, and the sort of the illusion of that, yeah, the time travel and all that kind of thing. Boy, I lost the thread of my thought. Oh, yeah, so after the festival circuit, are you going to distribute it, or how will you sort of let it live out in the public world? And I kind of understand that a lot of festivals, you can't submit if it's been shown publicly or something, like, I don't really understand how the whole festival thing works for that, but
Yes. There are some interesting rules surrounding projects and festival acceptances and selections and screenings. Um, and you'll find that out as you move forward in your project, Meg.
yeah,
Um, uh, I will say they're generally speaking, they're less restrictive on short films. Um,
I see.
Many times, if it's showing online or if it's already shown in a different festival or a different region, or even if it's already over a year old, for short films, it's not quite as restrictive. There will definitely be some festivals, usually the bigger ones, who want the exclusivity, who'll be like, "Oh,
Right,
no, if you've shown this publicly, you can't put it on this festival."
I
Um,
see.
but if you've just had, like, it's just been online or it's just over here, it's, again, a little bit restrictive, a little less restrictive. So it's worth still looking at, even if it's open publicly. Licensing is a different issue. If you've licensed it, that's definitely more of a legal issue. It's like, okay, they have the right to license, so you can't actually screen it at these festivals.
Right,
Um,
right.
for me, we're looking at some of the we're not so much winding down festivals, more like being more specifically curating what future festivals might be worth going to for its future projects. Right
Mhm.
now, um, after the short screened, people kept asking questions about the world, about the technology, about the emotional consequences of the choices that were being made by the character, or like ooh, this is a really interesting concept of what if you could go back and change time to a moment, that I started realizing the story could grow. And I'll be honest, I was kind of up against a wall about to show in Berlin, and I wanted to be able to talk about like what was happening next with this project. And I did not have time to create, write, and structure an entire pilot for television. That is usually what I'm drawn to, is writing TV pilots. So I thought, well, okay, what if this was a feature? What it would look like? And that actually sparked a lot of interesting questions and got me much clearer. And I'm actually really happy to say that I have a great feature concept for this particular short. Um, and take that question of like, if you could change the past, would it actually change anything?
Mhm.
Um, if you could go back and fix things, would it actually change things for the good? Uh, in essence, we're in the short film, we have realized this woman is grief stricken and trying to use illegal technology to go back in time to change a particular argument with her wife so that she doesn't go off and die. Uh, and we're unsure if she succeeds or not, really, in the short. In the feature version of this, we expand the story into realizing that she takes her life in her own hands by trying to change the past, and she succeeds. She brings her back. The problem is she hasn't actually fixed anything that caused the problems in their relationship in the first place. And the marriage still ends up on the rocks and in trouble, and her wife leaves her as well.
Mhm.
So it's much more of a, yes, we have this really cool sci-fi rewinding time technology, but is that actually solving the human problems that we still have?
Right,
Of not
right.
avoiding our problems, not being able to articulate our emotions, being unable to listen in a relationship, those kind of things. So using science fiction to examine these very human questions and just give them some heightened stakes so that we're able to pay attention and give some urgency, like we need to solve this and look at all
Mhm.
the options right now instead of, oh, we can procrastinate as long as we want. So we can give it some of that urgency, and we can talk about the story and what it might mean in a relationship and how it might apply to people in their lives right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really excited about exploring that in a feature version. Planning to, at the moment, I am contemplating attending some markets and some festivals to see if we can pitch this idea and get some financing for the feature concept and some of my other ideas. At the moment, what I'm doing practically is I'm kind of expanding it into a series, a web series that doubles as a fictional podcast to show what kind of larger story the feature would have, and maybe even a world in which it is possible to rewind time and what that would mean. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's all kinds of these things about what if, alternate possibilities, changing one moment, grief, emotions, and repressing emotions, which is a common theme in a lot of my stuff because, wow, I have a lot of personal experience with that. Um, but yeah, responsibility and being in
Yeah.
control and all of those things that we all kind of wrestle with.
I think it's really interesting that you made the technology illegal in your world.
Mm,
That which sort of presupposes a government that's legislating, like, oh, we they know about it, and they're like, no, you're not allowed to rewind time, or some sort of governing, legislating kind of body.
mhm,
So I think that is really interesting. I think it's also very interesting in currently the way that AI feels sort of like a runaway train, and
mm.
especially, I just think of it in terms of music because I hear about it a lot, but, like, this is illegal. Wait, no, that isn't illegal. Yes, you can copyright. No, you can't copyright that. It's like flip-flopping every day, and it feels like no one knows what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's very I think it is interesting, because I actually have met a couple of we call them AI artists. It's a person feeding prompts into, like, Suno to create
Mhm,
songs. It's there I really don't like the idea of creating a false artist with a false it's like, no, if there's an actual person, there's a Wizard of Oz behind that curtain, you know? And it really is this desire to create the songs they hear, but not this one person, AI musician I know, he's much, much older, and he's felt like he's missed the boat for learning how to, like, play an instrument or use the technology, so he uses Suno as a way to access his emotions around music and
mm,
create these songs, but he can't copyright them, he can't sell them. He can put them on Spotify, but he can't license them to TV, which is where the actual money in music is,
mm.
or film. So it's interesting that idea that we turn to technology to deal with our emotional problems,
Yes.
essentially, which I
I
feel
mean,
like is very much what your
yeah,
film is about.
absolutely. I mean, like in this specifically in the storyline of this particular show, this film, the protagonist, Claire, she is a behavioral economist. So she's used to analyzing people's behavior and seeing what it means for a company's profits, margins, like their everything in terms of like looking at it as a capitalistic or business structure. But she doesn't allow herself to feel those things herself. Like, it's been unsafe for her
Right.
for a very long time, and just like, okay, so there's this barrier between this, and somehow she still managed to fall in love with this amazing person and get married and have this mostly good relationship, but there are a lot of cracks, and these are because she's never dealt with certain things. And
Mhm.
her the web series that I'm creating is actually her in talks with her mandated therapist. Um, and you kind of explore like this conflict between this is the traditional therapy method, and
Mhm.
it's basically what you're saying is that Claire is like, I don't need this talking therapy. I've like she's can't really say it quite out loud because it is illegal, but she's like, I've found this technology that allows me to fix the problem. Like, and therapists in their natural thinking, therapist is talking feelings. Feeling the feelings is the important part of this
Right,
equation. She's like, and Claire's point of view is very much, no, I just need to solve the problem. This is the problem. Danya died. I need to fix the problem. She left. I need
right.
to fix that problem. This is happening. So it's not really, it's like different ways of looking at the same thing and using technology to try and figure out how to fix the problem without fixing the real problem is the thing.
Right.
Like, what is the
Right.
real problem? Digging deeper into that human soul. And like for your friend who's an AI artist, my initial question for that to him would be, well, not to him, but in general in that kind of situation would ask, what stories are you telling yourself that make you feel like it's too late to
I
learn
know,
anything?
yeah.
What makes you
I
feel
know.
like you have no time to do these things? That it's not because you might be older and you only quote unquote might have 20, 30 years left, that's
Right,
not
right.
enough time, or that you wouldn't gain anything by trying to learn it? What stories are that? Where is that coming from? Where is that fear? Where is that coming from? But
Yeah,
and I'm not and that honestly doesn't even touch on the question of using AI and all the legalities of it. It's more, I'm always
right.
focused on the person and what that
Oh,
means for
yeah.
the person of why they're using and how they're using that technology. And I feel like, yeah, it's very parallel. I'm seeing that in their situation with your music artist and in what I'm
Yeah,
writing right now. And also
yeah.
focuses on my whole centered creator thing is all about like bringing it back to the human and the soul connection and figuring out where that's coming from first, and then you can create. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
that
yeah.
that was definitely I could continue to talk about how the decline in arts education in the US education system
Mhm.
has brought us to
To this point.
Suno. Like,
Like, really? Does anybody
if
else remember getting those recorder lessons in, like, 4th or
I
5th
know.
grade or something? Like, come on.
But, I feel like a lot of, the problems in the US is that people weren't taught how to express themselves
Oh, yes.
accurately as
Oh, yeah.
children, and then, anyway, that's a whole other
That's a
tangent.
whole other
I mean,
topic on education and emotional intelligence in this country, and we're not gonna talk about other countries,
yeah,
but yes, that's a whole different discussion, which I'm happy to have at a future point, but
yeah, have a whole panel on that, but I feel like this is a really good segue into the other thing I wanted to talk about with you, which is your company or business, or I don't know what you call it, but the centered creator.
Mhm.
I know it's sort of, uh, it's funny, being there from the ground floor when you came up with this idea, and uh, how incredibly quickly you got it put together and
I'm
turned
glad that it
into a
seems
real
that way to
thing.
you. It does not feel that way to me.
I mean, like, people take years to build up to where you've got a whole structure and you're out there doing the meditations. But anyway, I want you to describe it. So, what sort of motivated you to create the centered creator, and like, what is that to you?
I guess it came from wanting to give back what I have learned, also my desire to start a business that was holistically aligned with who I am. Uh, wow, that's such a deep question. Um,
'Cause
and
it's
it
not the
probably
first business you've started,
no,
I
it is
know,
not,
but
and I feel like yeah, I'm backtracking because I feel like I need to explain that part too, because I have started another business, and that was more, whoo boy, going back. So hi, I'm Stephanie Arapian. I'm an actor, writer, and producer. I am also a bartender. I also run a midterm arbitrage rental business, basically placing displaced families and insurance claim families within housing while they are unhomed. Um, and I facilitate that between housing owners and running the properties and the guests and the insurance companies. Um, and
wow.
I started that business a couple of years ago basically as a realistic way that I could see, okay, I see this, I see the logic, I see the money, and I can do this. I'm capable, and it will get me out of bartending. And that was my main motivation. I want to stop bartending, please. So I have more
Mhm.
time to do other things. And then I realized starting a business basically eats your whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I would not regret it. I don't regret it, and I would not give back a thing for doing it because I learned so much by doing this and starting that business. But it it taught me that my next business that I needed to start needed to be more holistically aligned with who I am. And it's something that would fuel me as well as give to others. Because it was a really great feeling to know that I am taking care of these people while they're unhomed and they're in a very difficult transitory period in their lives. And I applaud everyone who stays within that business because it actually is very hard. I realized that it was draining me in ways that I could not accept anymore. And that it was giving away energy that I needed for myself and to drive my artistic career. So the Centered Creator was born out of my own practice. And I feel like this is a whole, it's so integrated into me that it's hard to break it down into pieces. Um,
Yeah.
my own understanding of how to deal with being an artist, being an actor, being a multi-hyphenate in Los Angeles in this industry today while running all the side hustles. So you know how every creative feels like they're juggling 1,000 things? I built
Mhm.
this business to help them learn how to breathe through it, like literally breathe through it. um, so I would call it a mindfulness brand right now. It's for people who have too many tabs open, too many things going on in their brain, juggling at many things. And I started it because I needed it myself. Sorry. I needed it myself. I was getting I didn't like how I was showing up in the world for myself sometimes. I would have, like, this huge frustration about, like, nothing's happening for me. I'm feeling like I'm stuck in this job, and I would go through this cycles of, like, "Okay, just stick with it," and a month later, I'm getting that frustration again and this anger and this, "Why won't things just work for me?" And then cycling back to calming myself down, and I'm like, "There's gotta be a better way to do this." And meditation for me was the answer, but not necessarily meditation as other people might call it. Um, so I found tools that work for me, and as I was finding things that worked and listening to other meditation guides and practices, I started tweaking as I do. Uh, well, this doesn't quite work. That language kind of tripped me up. Oh, I love this. That's great. Let's keep that. And I realized I was kind of creating my own for myself until I was literally recording them for myself. And then I realized that I could actually share that with other people and help other artists and create a brand that would give me something while being able to give back.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if I've actually answered your question because I feel like I
Yeah,
went on a few tangents
that
there,
was
but
no, that was an
um,
excellent answer. Well, yeah, going back to the creating it for yourself, it not being like maybe what people think of when they think of meditation.
mm,
I've attended a couple of your live meditations,
thank you for
and
that,
I
by the
like
way.
of course, yeah. And yeah, what I like about it, it's and you say this in your on your website, it's for the busy creator. It's for centering the creator, and we're all incredibly busy.
We are
So it
so busy.
creators, in case anyone listening didn't know, I think and everyone listening will my audience is going to be mostly creators, are going to relate. Is that you can't spend 2 hours sitting on a stool by yourself.
No,
Like, you
no,
don't
it's
just
just not possible. I'm
literally don't
sorry.
have the time.
Not only does anybody, I mean, I'm literally, unless you have literally booked out of your life on like a 2 week silence retreat meditation, and I'm like, okay, if that's your thing, go do it. But that's still like a
Right.
finite amount of time. It's not a practice that you can build into your everyday unless you literally want to commit to being a monk. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we're not here. Basically, us, we are creative people. Our creative community has already realized that our vocation is not to be a monk on a mountain. Our
Exactly.
vocation is to
Yeah.
create and give our creations to the world, to contribute to the world because it's needed and it's necessary. And I just feel like I'm going to harp on that lesson. We need to be here. The world needs art more than
Yes.
ever. Um,
Yeah.
and nobody has time for the 2 hour session. Nobody even really has time for like the hour long or even 30-minute session. I'll be honest. Like I get to
Yeah.
indulge every once in a while in a 30-minute session. But even by then, my brain starts getting a little itchy.
Yeah.
So most all of my meditations, like maximum, they're generally speaking like 15 to 20 minutes. And I also
Right.
create a lot of minis, which are like 3 to 5 minutes, because
Yeah.
that's the time you have the space for, especially when it's meant to be practical in terms of centering yourself in the moment when things are happening and the world is going crazy around you. And you're like, I need to breathe first. And then I can make an informed, educated, like an informed, reasonable decision about how I want to show up in the world
Mhm.
and move
Mhm.
forward from there, which is always going to be more aligned. And I'm not going to get into the metaphysics and stuff, but it's
Yeah.
just because it's fun and fascinating, but also very talky. Um,
Right. Right.
just practical tools. I'm all about getting the practical tools. Don't get me wrong. I love the metaphysical and the getting the woo woo. And again, all the science fiction, fantasy, energy. Give me all the cool things. Let me cast spells. It's cool. Um,
Yeah.
but we're keeping it to the non woo woo, crazy, and just
Practical.
getting down to these very practical tools so you can feel
Yeah.
centered, and not only that, but create from your centered self. And that
Yeah.
just means that you're putting your best work out there. You're generating more opportunities because the work you're creating is attracting the right people that need it or that want it or that want to work with you. I've met
Mhm.
so many great people and through doing Rewind to Her on my short. And part of it was because I had already started doing these wonderful practices for myself and had started really honing in and being more centered in myself. And there's definitely some more work I have to do. There's still some days where I'm kind of like, oh my God, I need to follow my own advice. Damn it. Damn it. I
Yeah.
should listen to myself more often. Damn it. But
I mean, it never ends,
it
right?
never
Like
ends. It's a
that's
constant learning. And
yeah.
as
Yeah.
you know, like the more you level up, the more you keep having to learn that lesson at that new level that you're at.
Mhm.
So it is kind of a never-ending thing, but I definitely can look back in my younger self and my previous projects and how I looked at the world, and I kind of just want to give myself a great big hug and say, "Oh, honey, it's all going to work out. It is going to do so much better than you think it is, and you're going to enjoy your life more once you stop putting so much stress and pressure on yourself, really."
Yeah.
But I think we
Yeah.
started this conversation because you asked me how I built all these things so like, I went from idea to execution and I built up so much. It doesn't feel that way because I ran the other business. And
Right.
that definitely was, like, hitting the ground running, and I
Really.
went nuts, kinda, because I was so desperate to get out of the bartending job that I put so much energy and effort into it. And that
Mhm.
first year was so tumultuous and crazy and insane, and I could give a whole podcast lesson on it. But,
Wow.
uh, it drove home how important the meditation and all these practices that I worked through now and that I'm slowly building out to offer to other people, these mindset tools, uh, how important it was for how I wanted to be show up in the world, how I align with my goals to bring them closer to me, and how I attract who I am meant to work with, to create with, and to just feel that spark and story of energy to ignite that inner spark of, "Oh, this is the new idea. Oh, this is the new project. Oh, this is the character that I'm gonna play on the show," and, just all of those things, that generative capacity that just needs to get out there in the world,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
doing all of those things and just so it might feel from the outside. For me, it feels a little bit slow 'cause obviously, I always wanna run with scissors.
Yeah.
Um, I wanna keep running before I'm walking, and my biggest challenge is usually needing to slow down.
Right. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
to slow down.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, 'cause you made that shift from November to January for your course, and I
Yeah.
think that was such a, like, and I'm glad that you talked about it on social media because it was such a wise move. It was coming from a place of, like, because I feel like there was a Stephanie in the past that would've been like, "No, it has to happen now. I said I was gonna
Yes.
do it, and I'm gonna
They're
do it
absolute
now."
you are totally right.
Yeah.
Stephanie of, like, 2, 3 years ago, or even the Stephanie that, like, started the housing business a couple of years ago would have been like, "I can make it work. I can make it work. And just listening to my tone of voice as I tried to convince myself I could make it work was just like, yeah, that doesn't feel like the energy you want to give to people who are trying to learn to meditate.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and just,
yeah, it
yeah,
works.
yeah,
The meditation works.
it
You're proof.
does. It does. And the thing is, it's not necessarily an immediate solution. It's definitely a long-term game. Not
Yeah.
gonna
Oh,
lie,
yeah.
meditation as a practice is a muscle, and it's like anything else. You gotta learn to work it out, and the more you work it out, the more it will work for you.
Mhm,
Having said
mhm.
that, I feel like right now I'm kind of specializing in the immediate problems that meditation needs to solve for you.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I really enjoyed that session last week, where you talked about the fire drill,
Yeah.
specifically for people on set. And
Mhm.
I was so gonna be running with that in March
Oh,
when
yeah.
I'm on set.
I
Like,
mean,
peop
I'm not gonna lie,
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, I like this one a lot." I told you I'm creating them for me as well as as other people, and I am
yeah,
actually like, "Oh, yeah." As I was creating it, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I really need to do this more myself too, damn it."
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and that's also true about
yeah.
the one I've got coming up next. I actually probably am gonna be recording that this afternoon, is one around boundaries. Setting boundaries around the
Yes.
holidays for
Yeah,
artists. When you feel
yeah.
like you have to explain your IMDb like it's a report card at the family dinner. Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah, I
Yes.
know. Yeah, I think any kind of creative, like a painter or a musician or an actor, a writer, I think anyone can relate to, especially if you don't come from a family of people who do that,
Yeah.
it can be very confusing for them what it is you do, and then you have to explain yourself basically. So,
Exactly. The need to
yeah.
explain, I mean, you sometimes you have supportive family members, but sometimes or some people are in the industry, and sometimes that makes them even
Mhm.
more critical.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have people who are just like,
right.
"I don't get it, but good for you." And sometimes they're it's wonderful, but at the same time, they're not able to understand the type of support you do actually need, and
Mhm.
they come out with the most loving non-supportive comments that are actually triggery. And it's because they don't understand. There's a bit of ignorance in there and maybe a little bit of neglect of like, well, I don't know about your industry and I haven't bothered to learn. So here we go. But
Right, right.
sometimes it is coming from a really awesome place, and sometimes it is somewhat toxic. I am so grateful that my family actually does at least support, even if they don't quite understand what I'm doing, and has actually grown into more as I grow more centered in myself as a creator, as who I am and how I want to show up in the world. Especially with my mom, she's been, "Wow, I didn't realize all the things that you do. I didn't
Mhm.
realize what that meant for you as a creative until I saw your pitch deck that you finally shared with me." I was like, "Wow, I can't think like this." And we actually had a really great conversation. Sorry, didn't mean to make anyone jealous, but I'm very happy about that. Um, but some people do have unfortunate negativity in their family or dynamics or even friend dynamics that make the holidays very difficult to get through as an
Mhm.
artist. And I just really wanted to speak to that right now as we all start getting up for these very difficult conversations. And that's married to this end of the year hustle that makes you feel like, well, I should have accomplished this by this time. Note the word should.
Right.
We don't like shoulds.
No, we
You
don't
know
should on
this.
ourselves.
We're not going to should on ourselves. Uh, and
Yeah.
that was also very much in my brain as I was like, oh yeah, this course definitely needs to wait until January.
Mhm.
I could go ahead and try to shit on myself for this, but honestly, it's turning into a much better, a much better pivot move to really ground myself in what I'm offering to different communities right now and where I can connect with people. And again, that fire drill reset that I was doing for the Black Magic Collective. I have a short one for writers on Monday. You're welcome to join, by the way, on Monday for writers.
Thank you. Yes, I got
Um,
that email.
yeah, and I have maybe 1 or 2 more coming up, in the end of the year and in the beginning of the year before I relaunch that course to yeah, it just feels like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It was right to take that break. I am always
Mhm.
on this right path when I'm listening to myself."
Yeah.
Oh, oh, dear Lord. I'm
Yeah.
smarter than I think, and I always forget that.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's that's the really cool one of the cool things about being a creator is creating things and then looking at them, your present self looking at them, your past self create and you're like, "Wow, you really knew more than I gave you
yeah.
credit for."
You ever have that moment when you've written something and you've walked away from it or it's set down or a little thing for a while and you go back and you realize like, oh, that didn't suck. That was actually really good. I'm a good writer. Go me.
Yeah, 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 it's
Not
nice.
bad.
It's always good when one can learn a lesson from that and
Oh,
be
yeah.
like, "Maybe I can appreciate what I'm doing."
Yeah. Maybe I can
Um,
give myself much more credit than I actually do. I feel like that's true across all artists, pretty much.
oh,
It's like
yeah.
we need to give ourselves way more credit than we actually do for what we
Yeah,
accomplish
yeah.
in a day, never mind like in our lifetime.
Right, the body
Yeah.
of work that we're creating.
Yeah.
When you're describing the centered creator, occurred to me, you're creating the thing that the main character in Rewind to Her needs to learn.
Oh, 100%.
Like, she needs to
100%. Yes.
learn how to that because meditation, ultimately, hopefully, brings emotional intelligence, like,
Mhm.
in that you are more intelligent about what the emotions you are feeling are. So,
Oh, absolutely. You're able to, like,
yeah,
question yourself. It's like, "Oh my god, what am I feeling right now? How do I feel? Oh, my body's trying to tell me something. Oh, my heart, my soul, my spirit, they're all trying to tell me something." It's about learning to
right.
tune into your own instincts as well, because you have great instincts. We've just learned to shut off all but the most extreme version of, "Oh my god, I must run away. A bear is chasing me." Um,
Yeah.
we've learned to either shut it down and not think about it or completely give into it and not think about it. This is allowing us
Mhm.
to really flow in between and think about it and understand it. Like, yes, bear chasing you, please run. don't don't think about why is the bear chasing me at that
Just
moment. Run
don't
first,
even
question later.
Yes.
But yeah, learning to tune into your own emotional intelligence. And honestly, the more I've developed Centered Creator, the more I realize it's the summation of who I am as a person and as a creator because I'm wrestling with this question of all of my travel around the world, all the things that I write, that we are all more alike than we are different. And if we tapped more into our emotional intelligence, we would be able to talk to each other.
Yeah.
We would be able to connect more with each other. We would be able to bridge a lot of these what seem like insurmountable divides right now that are happening in the world if we were able to self-reflect and examine our own emotions and be like, "Oh, well, is it really anger about that? Is it really that? Is it?
Mhm. Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Let's think about that."
Yeah.
So, yeah, meditation is the answer to solving all the world's problems.
There we go. And
Okay,
you can
grandiose
get it
statement.
right here.
It's a step forward, let me
Yeah.
just put it that way. It's
Yeah,
definitely a step forward.
absolutely. I think it's a crucial part of the equation for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, there were so many things that we talked about that could have gone a million different
We
ways,
did,
but I
and I went on for quite a bit. I kind of want to
no, this is
apologize,
the
but
do not
also, it was amazing. I love this chat.
good. No apologies accepted or
Good.
necessary.
No needed.
It's the
Okay.
point. Yeah, it's the podcast is all about other creatives hearing creatives say back to them, that their journeys are valid. Every single person I've interviewed has had a completely different journey.
Mm,
And I think and everyone has dealt with feelings of inadequacy or
mm.
I should be at this level by this point.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think everyone relates to that. And I hope that people can just appreciate. Yeah, I think a lot of it is about the body of work.
Yeah.
It's the journey for sure. There is no destination
There is no
other than
destination.
the
And
final
I
one.
think one of the hardest things for people outside of the industry or any creative industry to appreciate about being an artist is that we have been sold on this idea of career advancement and what that looks
Hmm.
like in the
Yeah.
corporate world. Um, like you work for something years and then you earn this promotion and then you go sideways and maybe take a different job at a different company, but it's a salary increase and and it's this and we move. That doesn't
Yeah.
happen for artists. We are literally the embodiment of the journey is more important than
Yeah.
the destination.
Yeah.
And that can be difficult for us to accept for ourselves because we're constantly hearing about it. Um, but yeah, I think that coming
Yeah.
to that realization has helped me to enjoy the process a lot more. Do I still have a lot of ambitions and sometimes feel very frustrated about certain lack of progress there? Absolutely. That's why I create those meditations so I can deal with that. Um, but
Yeah.
overall, I think I hope that all artists feel that they are valued simply for existing in this world and making a contribution, whatever that may be. And sometimes I think the hardest question is realizing it may not be as large scale as all of our dreams might want it to be. But I keep getting some stories back of like, sorry, I didn't mean to go on about this, but I have like a small story.
Mhm.
When I was working, I'm still working at the bar, but when I was working at the bar several years ago, I had a guest, and it was just a normal interaction guest, was staying for about a week. I work at a hotel bar, so they stay longer. And we chatted for quite a bit. We got a little deep, as sometimes you can do with your bartender slash therapist.
Mhm.
And we're just chatting about life, about ambitions, about things that he wanted to do with his life and things that were going on, or just like, idle musings and where I should go for dinner. And this happened over several days. And we gotten to the point where we were somewhat friends. And so I gave him my social media handle. Um, and I didn't think anything of it. It was just a normal interaction of like, oh, okay, cool. I am your friendly bartender slash therapist slash tour guide slash kind of new bestie. Um, and then several months went by, and I got a message, a DM, in my Instagram from him, and he explained that he was so grateful to me for making his week so enjoyable that I was a highlight of that month for him, of his week, and that he felt very safe talking to me. Part of this is also because I wear a pride pin at work, but he felt very
Mhm.
safe talking to me, that I was just a warm, happy presence and a light that made him see more of a future for himself. And he had just gotten out of a severely abusive relationship, and this was his first time away by himself. And he was trying to deal with all of that, and he was just, "You didn't know, but you were supporting me through that in a way that I can't even describe." And I just was like, "Wow, that's the kind of impact I had just by being me, working a job that I'm not particularly in love with, but that I appreciate."
Mhm.
And it wasn't really anything connected to what I feel I am here for, but just by being here and being me, I was able to do that. So your art is
Yeah.
more about being you in this world because you're an emotional, creative, sensitive being, and that contributes to the world in ways you don't even know right now.